All right. Okay, let's officially get started. So, I guess once again, just in case anyone's never been here before, hi, I'm Pandy. I am a full-time freelance artist, and I do a lot of 3D modeling. So, yeah, I've got about a year and a half of 3D modeling experience. Um, so I'd say I'm decently experienced with 3D modeling. I'm not like a crazy 10-year decade industry expert or anything, but I feel like I know enough that I can teach you the basics. The only program that I really have modeling experience in is Blender. So if you are somebody that's has ever used Maya or ZBrush and has any questions about that, I cannot answer them because I don't use those programs. I have never used those programs. I cannot answer any questions about them because I just don't know. So first things first, let's open Blender. So let's go. I'm gonna go in the zoom out view. Here we go. So when you first open Blender, as long as you have like a relatively recent version of Blender, we should always be on about the same page. I'm using 3.1.2, but it's okay if your version is a little bit newer or older than mine. Like, it's fine. In fact, even if you were using like a 2 point whatever version of Blender, it should still look pretty similar. So you should basically have this little window in the center, and on the left is all of the different new files that you can open, and the right would be recent files if you've ever like worked in Blender before and have files, but you don't, just ignore that. You don't need that. We're just going to be looking at new files because we're going to start a new file. So as you can see, there's like different kinds of new files. So Blender is really handy because it will let you open up a new file with some template stuff for whatever purpose you have. Blender's really cool because not only can you use it for 3D modeling, you can also use it for sculpting models, 2D animation, because Blender actually has 2D functionality. Not everybody is aware of that. There's also virtual effects, video editing, stuff like that. But we're just keeping it basic today. I just want to let you guys know that Blender has a lot of uses beyond just basic 3D modeling. So we're just going to click the one on the top that says general, because that's all we really need. We just want the general Blender file. So when you click that, you're going to see these three things. There's going to be the cube, the light, and the camera. We are not going to do anything with the light or the camera because I will be real with you guys, I never use Blender for animation or rendering, so I actually don't know anything about those parts of Blender. I always delete the light in the camera because I don't use it and I never need it. So, oh, also, my mouse cursor is purple. You guys should be able to see it, and it's kind of big, so hopefully you guys should be able to see it pretty easily because I want you guys to be able to like know where my mouse cursor is at all times. I'm going to, you should already by default have the select tool on. So when you click on things, it should select them. So what we're gonna do just to like clean up our space here is I want you to click on this thing right here, this funky thing. That's the camera. Just click it. It should highlight orange to show that you selected it. And then you could just go ahead and press the delete key on your keyboard and that'll delete it and then it's gone. And then you're also going to do the same thing over here. See this? I know it's a little bit hard to see, but this tiny little thing over here, click it. That is the light. We don't need the light either. So go ahead and select it by clicking it and then pressing delete on your keyboard and getting rid of it because we don't need it. There we go. Yay! All clean. All right. So I want to go over kind of like very, very, very basic concepts of 3D models. So the first thing I want all of you to do is I want you, or I guess it's not the first thing technically because I had you delete stuff before this, but for the beginning of everything, I want you to click on that cube in the middle here, like this boring gray cube. Just click it. You'll know if you selected it because it will highlight in orange, and I'm going to teach you some basic Blender controls just so that we can be on the same page. So if you scroll with your mouse wheel, if you scroll up on your mouse wheel, you will zoom in. And I want you guys to scroll up on your mouse wheel to zoom in on the cube so you guys can get a better look at it. Sorry, I'm answering a DM, but if you guys have any questions at this point, feel free to let me know. Hopefully you guys have been able to follow along, because I think I'm keeping it pretty simple and, like, I don't think I'm going too fast, but remember to just pause me or say, hey, Pandy, I'm lost, if you do get lost at any point. Okay, so now that you've selected your cube, we are going to go into the corner. So go over to the corner, and there's this little menu, this little drop-down box menu where it says object mode right now. I want you to click it, and then it'll bring up this drop-down menu, and I want you to go to the one right below object mode that says edit mode. I want you to go to edit mode. Just click it, and then you'll be in edit mode. And you'll know you're in edit mode because it will say edit mode right there in the drop-down box. And your cube should look something like this. It should be all highlighted in orange, and you should be able to see these dots on the corners of all the cube. Okay, so I want to teach you guys what makes up a 3D model. So a 3D model is basically made up of 3 things. So the basic unit of a 3D model, all 3D models have them, is this thing. See all of these little dots that are on the corners of the cube? They are a thing called a vertex. A vertex is literally just a little point in 3-dimensional space. That's all it is. It's just like a little bit of, like a little point in 3-dimensional space. And then when those 2 points, when you take more than 1 point, take 2 points, and you connect 1 point to another point, that makes a line. So if you go up into the corner right next to where it says edit mode, you can see what we can select right now are the vertexes of the cube. If you go right next to it, you can click the thing that looks like a line. That's edge select. If you click it, this lets you select edges of the cube. So as you can see, now that I've selected edge select, I can click on the edges of the cube and it selects the edges of the cube. And if I go back and I click the point select again, I can see the vertexes of the cube, little points on the cube. So on all 3D objects, you have points. When the points connect to each other, they make a line called an edge. And when you connect multiple edges together, if you go up into the corner, right next to the edge select, you can do face select. And that's what each side of the cube is, a face. And each face is made up of all of the edges connected together. I hope that is clear. I hope that is like an easy concept to understand. So you've got your vertexes, your points. Those are the very, very basic unit. The edges are when you connect 1 point to another point and they make a line. And the faces are when you connect multiple edges together, and that makes a face. That makes a plane in 3D space. I hope that is clear. So as you can see on this cube, okay, I'm gonna teach you another basic control of Blender. So, as you know, as I have told you before, if you zoom up, if you scroll up or down on your mouse wheel, you zoom in and out on the cube. If you hold down your mouse wheel, like if you click your mouse wheel and hold it down and then drag it around the screen, you can rotate your camera and you can see the cube from different angles. If you drag it left, left to right, the camera goes side to side. Go up or down, you change the up or down angle of the camera, should be pretty easy to understand when you try it for yourself. So to do that, you just click your mouse wheel and you drag it around. And then scrolling up and down on your mouse wheel lets you zoom in and out. This is pretty much like the most basic camera control. This is probably the camera control that you're going to be using the most whenever you 3D model. Oh, and just to clarify, I have never changed any of the shortcuts or controls on my Blender. So my shortcuts and my controls should be pretty much the same as your guys's, assuming that you haven't done any like setting changes or anything like that. Our settings should be the same, so all of our shortcuts and stuff should be the same. If for some reason I do something, if I say to press a button and what my button does is not the same as what your button does when you press it, go ahead and just like let me know. So yeah, so when you click and drag the mouse wheel, you can like drag around and change your camera angle. So as you can see, this cube is made up of all the different points, the edges, and the faces. That's what makes up the cube. So we can, if you count, 7th page, welcome! Thank you for the follow, happy Saturday, and welcome in. Hello teacher, I want to ask if you can please show how to use Bool Tool, please? And sorry if I may unfollow later. I'm sorry, I'm just going over, This stream is meant for people who may not have had any 3D modeling experience before, so I'm going over basic tools and concepts, and then the basic tools and controls of the program. So I probably will not be getting to the Bool Tool today. I apologize for that. And actually, I don't even really use the Bool Tool that much personally, so I don't even think I could really teach it that well. I apologize for that, sorry. I'm currently going over what 3D models are made out of, so I'm going over some really basic stuff today. So, if you look at this cube, and it's made of all the points and the edges, it is made up of, we can even count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertexes. And it's got, it's a cube, so it has, what is that, 6 sides, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 edges. So that's basically, that's like the very basics of what makes up a 3D model, and all 3D models are made up of these 3 things. So anything from as simple as a box to something as intricate and detailed as my 3D model, little low poly pandy here. We are all made up of these 3 things. So 3D modeling is basically just taking these small, simple parts, but building them and connecting them into something. Sorry, Flo, I don't have a Discord command. I know, I suck. I don't have a Discord command. But a 3D model is basically made up of those 3 small things, and what you're doing is you're just making a whole bunch of them and connecting them to make something more detailed and intricate. I want to say it's kind of like, you know, Legos. You start off with your little basic little Lego pieces, and you can make really cool stuff by putting a bunch of Legos together. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna drink some water. Okay, so now that you guys know the basic parts of the 3D models, I guess I'll pause here just in case anyone has any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If there was anything I went over that you want me to repeat, feel free to let me know. The basic, of the things that I did just tell you though, besides obviously the basic parts of the 3D model, I want you to remember these controls because these are really important controls. Scroll up and down on the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and click and drag your mouse wheel around to change the camera angle. Thanks, Flo. Yes. Oh, and in the corner is where you can change what kind of things you select. So you can select different, you can select just points, You can select just edges, you can select just faces. If you hold shift when you click them, you can have multiple active at the same time so that you can select points, edges, or faces whenever you want. I usually like to do it just one at a time though. I don't know why, but I suddenly remembered the super dated OpenGL class my university made me take where I had to program, not sculpt or model 3D scenes. It was awful. Oh, that's interesting. Even the professor who'd been programming for 30 years barely had any idea what was doing. Oh man. I don't know anything about OpenGL. Programming your 3D models instead of just working in a modeling program sounds really stressful though. Okay, I'm assuming no one has any questions. So from here, I think I'm going to start teaching you guys some of the basic tools of Blender. So if you look on your left-hand side, this is pretty much where all of the basic tools are going to be. Lumincon, thank you for the follow. Welcome in and happy Sunday. Thanks for stopping by. So these are all the basic tools of Blender. So the most important one, I think, for you guys to know is the select tool. So that's the one you should currently already have selected, right here, right at the top. Can we please learn the basics of sculpting? Maybe. I think going into sculpting might be a little bit too advanced for now. I want to just teach basic 3D modeling at this stream, but if I ever do another stream in the future, I can teach the basics of sculpting. I just want to do basic 3D knowledge here. Okay, yeah. So that's the select tool right in the corner. If you click on the corner where, I know it's like really hard to see, but if you like look closely at it, there's like a little arrow in the corner that shows that it's got multiple modes to it. So if you click it, if you click it and you click and hold, this little drop down menu will come up and there'll be different select modes here. So you should be defaulting to select box. When you have select box, you can click and you can drag and you can select everything that's within that box that you made when you clicked and dragged. I currently have point select, so I'm selecting points when I click and drag. So that's how you can, that's like an easy way to select multiple things at once. You don't have to like click each single thing. Another one that you can do is tweak. Tweak is if you don't want to select multiple stuff and you want to make sure you're only selecting like one at a time. That's the tweak one at the top. If you want to be very careful and like select things just a few at a time, but you still do want to select multiple things, if you click on something and then you hold shift and then you select another thing, it will select multiple things. You can select multiple things at once. So I like using the tweak tool when I want to select multiple things, but I want to be very careful about what I'm selecting. Like I want to select this point and I want to select this point. So I'm clicking and then I'm holding shift and then I'm clicking the other one. So that'll let you select multiple points that would be really hard to select if you were using the box tool. Because if you're using the box tool, and here, just to show you, if I had select box and I wanted to select those, it'd be really hard because if I clicked and dragged the box, it would like select all the stuff in between. One thing to note though, you can still use the shift tool even when you're using the select box mode. I can click and select this vertice, and then if I hold shift, I can drag the box and do that, and it still selects those. So that's just another way to do it. I hope that was clear. If anybody wants me to repeat anything, if you have any questions, now is a good time to ask. There are a few other select modes. Select circle is very similar to select box, but instead of clicking and dragging and making a box, you click and drag and you select things that you hover over with the circle. So it's kind of like yeah, you just like hover over stuff to select it. So select circle is also pretty useful. I should probably use it more, but I don't. If you want to change how big or small the circle is, when you're in select circle mode and you go up into the corner here where it says radius, you can change the size of the circle by either clicking the arrows, or if you click on the box and drag your mouse left to right, you can change the size of the circle. So it was at 25, and then if I increase it and it becomes 60, you can see the circle is bigger. I can make the circle even bigger. It's like 300 now. That's a way to change the size of the circle, so you can select bigger areas or smaller areas. An important thing to remember is that the circle is always sized relative to your screen. So if you zoom in or out, the circle always changes the circle always stays the same size, even if you zoom in or out. Select circle is the bane of your existence, always accidentally selecting it. I usually use box select or tweak personally. Select circle's pretty good too. Honestly, I always forget about it. Select lasso is the last select mode I'll teach you guys about. This one is, you guys might be familiar with the lasso tool in other programs. But basically, when you click and you drag your mouse, when you have the select lasso mode on, you can draw a shape on your screen. I'm gonna draw this funky thing that looks like a bad peanut. And anything that's inside of the shape that you drew when you clicked and dragged will be selected. And once again, this is another thing where you can use the shift tool to select multiple things at once. Every single select mode is going to let you do that. You can always use shift to select multiple things at the same time. So I can draw my circle around these two and select those, and then if I hold shift and draw another shape over here with the lasso tool, I can select all three of those at the same time. And Skittles546, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Happy Sunday. Thank you for the follow. So that is the basics of the select. Are we pro yet? No, we are very, very, very far from pro. We are at the very, very basics of Blender. I'm teaching the basics of what makes up a 3D model. I'm teaching the basic tools and controls of Blender. So I know it's like very, very basic stuff, but the stream is intended for people who have no experience with Blender or 3D modeling in general. So I'm keeping it like very simple. One of the most important things you learned early was that you can only select vertices, faces, and edges, not parts of a face. That's because, yeah, you can't select parts of a face because there isn't really such a thing as a part of a face. You have to think of each of these things as their own object. So the point is one thing you can select. An edge is another thing you can select. That's one edge. This is one point. This is one face. The only way you could select a part of the face is by splitting the face into multiple faces. There's no such thing as a part of a face. It's only the one whole face. 1, 2, 3 is hotkey for those, by the way. Oh, I'll be real with you guys. I actually don't know all of the shortcuts for Blender, like the keyboard shortcuts. But yes, Skittles is right. 1, 2, 3 is hotkeys. So if you want to be in point select mode, you can press 1. It'll put you into point select mode. If you want to be in edge select mode, you can press 2. It'll put you into edge select mode, select edges. And if you press 3, it'll put you in face select mode. Oh, another actually thing that I want to point out to you guys that I think is important to know is if you select something, for example, if I select this face in face select mode, and then I switch over my selection mode to edges while that face is still selected, it's going to select all of the edges that make up that face. So that's just like one thing I think that's like handy to know. And if I go to point select mode, then you can see the points. It selects all of the points that make up that face. And for example, if I was an edge and I selected an edge and then I went into point select mode, it keeps selected the points that make up that edge. Okay. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. Let me know if there's any questions, if you want me to repeat anything. So yeah. those are the select tools. I'm going to go back to select box mode just because I am very comfortable with select box. And so I'm going to teach you guys the next tool of Blender that I think is very important to know. It's the move tool. The move tool, as I feel like it's fairly self-explanatory, will let you move things around in 3D space. So let's keep it really simple. Let's go into face select mode. You can either click it up in the corner, click face select mode, or you can press 3 on your keyboard to go into face select mode. And let's select the top face of the cube. The cube's top face right there. I'm gonna change my camera angle a little bit. Oh, actually, I guess while I'm here, I'm gonna teach you guys another camera tool that is good for you guys. If you want to change, so I taught you guys how to zoom in and out with the mouse wheel and to click and drag the mouse wheel to change your camera angle. If you want to change the position of the camera, you can go here to the right side, where this little hand is. If you click and drag it around, if you click that hand icon and drag it around, you can change the position of the camera, and that will move the camera around. Oops. So I'm moving my camera a little bit. I'm gonna zoom out. G is hotkey for move. Oh, okay. 7th page is right. Learning hotkeys does make the process a lot faster. That is kind of where I dropped the ball in terms of Blender, because I have not bothered learning a lot of the hotkeys. I am self-taught. I have never taken a formal class for Blender, so I actually don't know a lot of the hotkeys. What was it? Oh yeah, so we've selected the top face of the cube, and I make sure you guys go to the toolbar on the left, and if you click the icon that's the third down right here that looks like 4 little arrows, that is move, the move tool. If you click that, you'll see these 3 arrows pop up on your screen. The blue arrow is for the y-axis. I always get my axes confused in Blender. No, I think is that the Z? I know red is X, but oh wait, okay, yeah, never mind. The blue is Z. I keep forgetting. I can just look over here and then I'll remember which one's which. But yeah, the red arrow is the X-axis, so that's left and right. The Z-axis is, I know it's like weird, but Z is actually, it's up and down. Z is up and down because the way Blender works is like if you were looking at it top down, then X is left to right, and then Y is up and down. So it kind of is like from a top-down perspective, that's how it is. And then Z is depth, so Z is kind of like height, I guess is a way to think of it. But anyways, so I accidentally flipped my camera around a bunch, but anyways, here's the top of the cube. And if you have the move tool selected, you can click on the blue arrow and you can click and drag it up and down. And so you are moving that face up and down. You can move it. You can also move it using the other arrow. So if you click the red arrow, it'll go side to side this way. If you click the green arrow, click and drag the green arrow, you can move it. It'll move side to side this way. If you want a little bit more freedom of movement, you can click this white circle in the middle and click and drag it around, and you can just drag it to wherever you want on the screen to move it. And that is the basics of the move tool. So you can move whole faces like we just did, or if you go into different selection modes like edge or point, I can select, for example, I can select this edge, and I can just move this edge, turn the cube into a funky shape. it's not quite a cube anymore. And the controls for moving are the same no matter if you have faces, edges, or point selected. So it should be pretty easy to understand. If I select a point, I can move a singular point up and down and around. Yep. Oh, and another thing that's handy to know for shortcuts for selection. If you press A on your keyboard, you will select everything. You will select all of the stuff for that object that you're working on. You'll select everything. As long as you're in edit mode. You should remember that a lot of this stuff only works in edit mode, so you're going to want to make sure if you want to move around the points or the edges or the faces of an object, make sure that you're in edit mode. Control Z to undo. Oh yeah, that's another good shortcut to know. Control Z to undo. If you ever do something and you're like, oh, I don't like that I did that, you can use Control Z to undo. That is a classic universal shortcut that Blender also has, so that's great. So I've taught you guys the move tool. If you guys need me to repeat anything, or isn't this working? Remember, I forgot to change the edit mode. Oh my gosh. Forgetting to change to edit mode sucks, or like being in the wrong mode. It happens to me all the time. But yeah, so that's the move tool. If anybody needs me to repeat anything, or you have any questions, let me know. Now's the time. I'm going to drink some water. Okay. So the next tool that I think would be that's very handy to know is the rotate tool, which is right below the move tool here in the little toolbar. And obviously, knowing shortcuts makes it a lot faster to work in Blender, but part of the reason that I'm not like teaching the shortcuts is, well, one, I'm gonna be real, I actually don't use the shortcuts that often. I often forget that they exist, and I just click the buttons all the time. But also, I think it'll be easier for you guys to remember, if you can like look at the screen and see a picture with a button, and then when you mouse over it, it tells you what the button is. So for all the people that are like new here and haven't used Blender before, or are new to 3D modeling, it's easier for you to like double check what you're selecting, and you don't have to just like memorize, R is the rotate tool. So that's like another reason why I'm going over like where the buttons are on the screen, because that's like a good way for you to just like see it and not have to like memorize things as I say them, you know? So yeah, this next tool is the rotate tool. Click it to select it. Once again, just click whatever you want to edit, and you'll see this control come up. So I think what we're actually going to do, I think the best way to show you guys the rotate tool is we're just going to select the whole object. We're going to select the whole object. So the shortcut for that is A, if you want to do a shortcut, or if you wanted to do it the hard way, you could go back to select mode and like click and drag the box and then rotate your camera and hold shift and then click and drag and then rotate the cube around to make sure that you've selected everything. But the easiest way is to just press A, and that will select everything. That is a very important shortcut to know, is A. A stands for all, and it just means select all. So, oh yeah, and in case it wasn't clear, if you ever want to deselect things, sorry, I feel like I can't believe I forgot to go over this, but if you ever want to deselect something, for example, if I have selected this point and I don't want to select that point anymore, I can either click off the object, it'll deselect the point, or I could hold shift and click the point again, and it'll deselect it. So, if you don't want to have anything selected, just clicking off the object is the easiest way. But if, for example, I had multiple points selected, and I only want to deselect one of those points, holding shift and clicking the point that you want to deselect that is like a good way to do it, you know, very exact. But yeah, Skittles brings up a pretty good, another good shortcut. This isn't applicable to the current cube. This is like a little bit more advanced, but if you're working with multiple multiple meshes in one object, hold on. I guess I should explain what like a mesh is. A mesh is basically a collection of points, edges, and faces that are connected. That's all a mesh is just a bunch of connected points, edges, and faces. This cube is one mesh. If you want to work with multiple meshes, you can go up to the top here, and there is a bunch of buttons, and there's one that says add. You can click it, and it'll open up this, you can click it, it'll open up this little drop-down menu with a bunch of different shapes, and I could add, let's add a UV sphere, for example. That just makes a nice, round, smooth sphere. If you click it, it will add a sphere. And you currently can't see it on my screen because when it came in the middle of the cube, so it's hard to see. But the move tool automatically got selected when I added it, so I can just move it to where I can see it by clicking and dragging on the arrows and moving it. So that is the sphere. So this cube is one mesh, and the sphere is another mesh. They are two separate meshes because this cube does not connect to the sphere. The cube does not connect to the sphere, so they're two separate meshes. And the shortcut that Skittles was talking about is L. So if you mouse over one of the meshes and you press L, it will select all of the parts of that mesh. And then if you press shift and you press L on another mesh, you can like select multiple whole meshes at once. Or, oh, actually, wait, no, you don't have to hold shift. My bad. You don't have to hold shift. All you have to do is press L again. So you can press L on one mesh, and then press L on another. It'll select that one. If you hold shift and press L again, it'll deselect that mesh. But that's just like something to know. That's the basic concept is meshes. Meshes are just connected, edges, points, and faces, and they're like each their own like little thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete the sphere because we don't really need the sphere. So I will just delete it. Oh, this is actually another thing that is good to know. It didn't come up when I was deleting things in object mode, but this is something that does come up when you delete things in edit mode. So if you have an object, if you have like a mesh selected and you press delete, it won't just delete things. It's going to bring up this menu. And this menu is really handy because it actually lets you delete things selectively. So you can either delete the vertices, the edges, the faces, only edges and faces, or only faces. If I select vertices, edges, or faces, it's still gonna just delete everything because I've selected all of the vertices on the mesh, so it is just gonna delete everything. But if I pressed only edges and faces, or only faces, like for example, I'm gonna click only faces. It's only gonna delete the faces, but it'll still leave the points and the edges. So that's an interesting thing to know. If for some reason you ever want to delete just a face or just edges, but you still want to leave the points there. So that's like an interesting thing to know. I'm gonna select all of the points on this sphere mesh and just delete them though, because I don't need the sphere for anything right now. Anyways, let's go back to the rotate tool. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted there on a tangent, because I forgot to teach you guys about meshes. But let's go back to the rotate tool. So let's make sure we have the rotate tool selected in the toolbar on the left, and let's go ahead and press A to select the whole cube. So we have the whole cube selected now, and we have the rotate tool. So you're gonna see, basically, it's like a bunch of little curved lines in a circle, and when you click and drag on the curved lines, you will rotate the object along whatever axis that line is on. So that's the x-axis, so I'm rotating it along the x-axis. If I turn the camera around, you can see the y-axis. I can rotate it along the y-axis, and rotate it along the z. And if you click the white circle on the outside, it's similar. Oh, actually, it will just rotate the object based on the angle that you're viewing at. So it's just rotating the object based on my camera angle. So it's rotating it like this because I'm looking at the cube from this angle. But if I switch my camera angle, if I rotate it, it's going to rotate the cube like this based on my camera angle. So yeah, that is the rotate tool. Oh, and actually another thing that is cool to know about each of the tools is if you want to have like more exact control over what you're doing. So we have the rotate tool on and we selected the cube. If you go down right here into the corner, you'll actually see a little menu box that says rotate with an arrow. If you click the arrow, it will bring up a bunch of settings for the tool that you're using. So you can say exactly what angle that you want to rotate the cube at. Like, I want to rotate the cube at a 90-degree angle. You can type in 90, it will rotate the cube at exactly 90-degree angle of whichever axis that you're trying to rotate it at. You can set which axis you're rotating right here. You can do it by Y, X, or Z. You can set that there as well. And there is orientation, so you can change like how the cube rotates, like based on either your view or other stuff. That's a little bit more complicated. I'm not gonna go over orientation. View is the default, and that's the easiest one to understand, so I'm just gonna leave it there. But if you ever want to try to mess with settings like that, that's like an interesting thing to know for the future. So that's the rotate tool. The same actually kind of goes for the move tool. So if we go back to the move tool, select the move tool, and let's just select the whole cube again. For that menu to come up, you have to actually like try to move the object a little bit, like either with the arrows or the white circle, to actually bring up that menu in the corner. But when it comes up, you can select if you want to move it from the X, Y, Z. You can type in exact values for how much you want to move the cube. I want to move the cube 100 to the, oh god, 100's actually a lot. 100's a lot. Maybe not 100, maybe 1. Actually, maybe 10. And that moves it along the x-axis because I'm typing it in the x. So when I do that, it moves it along the x-axis. If I type in a negative number, it'll move it the opposite way. I can press 0, I don't move it at all. And you can do that for the X, Y, or Z, so you can get a lot of exact movement and numbers. These are really handy for when you want to make like very small or exact changes. That's very useful. So that was the move tool, and that was the rotate tool. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you want me to repeat anything, no problem. And so those are the basic controls. Okay, so another basic tool is the scale tool, which is right underneath the rotate tool. So scale tool, as the name implies, lets you scale things. So you can make things either smaller or you can make them larger. So once again, it has these 3 little lines that are colored to indicate which axis you are going to be doing it from. So I have the whole cube selected. If I click and drag the red, you can scale along the x-axis, the red line. If I do it from green, it does it along the y-axis, the green line. If I do it from Z, pretty self-explanatory. If you want to scale the object like from all of the axes all at once, so you just want to scale the whole object all at once, you would click the white circle and drag it outwards or inwards. When you drag outwards, you scale the object up, you make it bigger. When you drag inwards, like towards the center of the object, you make it smaller. So I'll just make it bigger. You can select it from either the tiny white circle or the big white circle. They're both the same. Selecting from the outer big circle is like nice though for if you want to like make it smaller and scale inside. I selected the whole cube there, but keep in mind you can select just edges or just faces, or even just points, and scale those. So if I go into the select tool and I select, I'll select this face, for example. I selected this face. You can scale just the face. Oh, and another thing is you can also goes for the rotate and the move tool. You can select just those and then just rotate the thing that you select. One thing to note about this goes for both the rotate and the scale tool. If you select just one point, on the model and you try to like scale it or rotate it, it won't do anything because you're just selecting one point. This point will not get bigger because it's just a tiny little dot coordinate in space. You cannot make this tiny finite point in space bigger because it's just like a point in space. It does not get bigger or smaller because it always is going to be exactly right there in that one point in space. It will not be scaled. And you also can't rotate it because you can't rotate one point in space. It won't do anything. For rotate and scale to work, you have to select at least 2 points. So I can rotate these 2 points, I can scale these 2 points, but you cannot rotate or scale 1 point. And that is the scale tool. If you have any questions or need me to repeat anything, let me know. I hope that was easy to follow along with. I would say those are the most basic tools for Blender and 3D modeling in general. Those are tools that you are probably going to use for almost every 3D model you ever make or work on. If you can avoid using those tools somehow on a model that you make, that sounds both very impressive but also like a huge headache. Like why would you avoid using those tools? Identify laws of physics, scales, and rotates your vertex. Okay. I want to emphasize that the whole time we've been in edit mode. Edit mode is where you can mess around with the vertexes and the edges and the faces. But if we go back to that little menu up in the corner and we go to object mode, you will move the whole object. And you'll notice you actually lose a bunch of the tools on the left-hand side because you can't use those tools in object mode. Because object mode is for editing the whole object, not for editing the parts that make it up, like the points, the edges, and the faces. When you click and select the cube in object mode, you will notice that you can still move it, and you can still rotate it, and you can still scale it, but you will always be rotating and scaling and moving the whole object. You can't edit just the parts in object mode. You have to go into edit mode if you want to move around the parts that make up the object and change its shape. But if you ever want to make changes to the whole object, and you just want to scale or rotate the whole thing, you can do that in object mode. Okay, so those are the very basic tools. I hope you guys have like a good understanding of the basic tools and like how 3D models work. If you have any questions or want me to repeat anything, let me know. But I think for now, I'm going to teach you guys like some slightly more advanced tools now, I think. I think this is a good time for it. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete the cube. So if you're in select mode, you can select the cube. And we're in object mode right now, so we can just delete the whole cube object. So delete the cube object with the delete key. And now it's gone. No more cube. So for the next lesson, we're gonna use a cube again, but I just want to use a cube that is like nice and clean and default looking, just to make sure we're all on like the same page for this next part. So if you go up to the top, close to object mode, and then you go to the right a little bit, you'll see this button that says add. We are going to add a mesh and mouse over it, and there's cube right here. We are going to click it, and we're going to add a cube. And look, we have a fresh, new, beautiful, perfect cube. Oh, something of note, when you add meshes in Blender using that menu, you'll actually get a little menu in the corner here, similar to the move tools and the rotate tool and the scale tool and stuff like that, that lets you edit the settings. So when you add the cube, if you want to change the size of it or the location or the rotation of it right off the bat, you can do it right when you add the cube. Shift A also brings up add menu. Yes, that is another shortcut that is handy to know. So we are going to click the cube to make sure we have the cube selected, and then we're going to go into edit mode. So that way we can actually edit the cube. So I think there's a few slightly more advanced tools, but tools that are basically like staples of 3D modeling. I'm going to teach you guys the extrude tool first, I think. The extrude tool is going to be one of your most important tools. So I'm trying to think of a good way to describe the extrude tool. I feel like you'll understand it when you see it in action. So the shortcut for extrude is E, but there's also just this button here on the left side. It is one of the green buttons, and it says extrude region, and it looks kind of like a little green cube on top of another cube. So you can extrude points, you can extrude edges, or you can extrude faces. So I think I'm going to show you how extrude works with a point, and then I'll show you with an edge, and then I'll show you with a face, because I just want to make sure you guys understand what's happening when you use the extrude tool. So I am going to make sure I have one point selected. I have selected a point on the cube, and then I'm going to have my extrude tool, and you can either... There's like two main ways you can extrude. I usually use the shortcut where you press E, and when you press E, it doesn't look like anything's happened, but if you move your mouse around after you've pressed E, I have extruded the point, and I can drag it around wherever I want on the screen. So basically, when you extrude something, you make a copy of it, and that copy is connected to the thing that you just extruded, and you can move it to wherever you want. So I can do it like that, and then you'll note I clicked just now. I clicked when I had it kind of where I wanted it, and then you can move it using the move tool. It'll automatically select the move tool after you've extruded, so you can move. What I usually like to do is okay, I unextruded. I pressed undo a bunch, and the cube is our normal default cube. I usually like to press E to do the extrusion, and then I click to just like finish it, and then I just use the move tool, so that way I can just move it directly up and down or side to side. That's what I personally like to do. But if you ever want to just like move it wherever you want, that's something else you can do. Extrude yourself on my favorite tool. 10 out of 10 for tools. Would extrude again. It's a very good tool for 3D modeling. Okay. So that was me extruding one point. So what it does is it makes another point and it connects that point to the one that I extruded from, and that's extrusion. So I'm going to show you what it does with an edge. So if I extrude an edge, I'm gonna use the extrude tool this time. If you use the extrude tool, it extrudes like this, which is you can either click the white, but okay, so sorry, let me try to go over that again. I selected the edge tool. I selected the edge, and then I selected the extrude tool. And if you do that, you can extrude freely by clicking the white circle and dragging it around, or you can click this yellow thing and it will extrude the thing at a straight line based off of its orientation. It's a little bit hard for me to like tell you guys how it decides like what angle it's going to extrude from. That's like a little bit more advanced and is based on a thing called normals, and I think normals are like too advanced to talk about today. But just to let you know, this lets you extrude things at like an exact angle. It's set to normal mode. Oh yeah, there's settings at the bottom. You can change it, and oh, I guess it's at the top too. Yeah, I forgot that you can change the mode. I actually don't use the extrude region tool that much. I usually just use the shortcut. But yeah, Skittles has a really good point. So if you do use this extrude tool here, if you go up into the corner right under edit mode, you can either select normal or you can select XYZ. XYZ is probably the more useful one in most cases, especially for a beginner. But it will let you pick which angle you extrude from. So you can choose to extrude it from the Z-axis, or the X-axis, or the Y-axis. Y-axis is like hard to see because it's a line, but yeah. But yeah, when you extrude an edge, you'll see that it made another face there, actually. And for you to understand why that's happening, I think it's important to remember. So when we are extruding, we are making a copy of the thing that we extruded and moving it, and then it connects them. It will automatically connect those things. So if you notice, an edge is made of 2 points. So we made a copy of 2 points, and those 2 points connected. And when they connected, they also made a face because we also copied that edge. So it made a face. So if we extrude a face, for example, I'm going to extrude this face on the cube, and I'm going to extrude it along the Y-axis here. It makes a bunch of faces because it is connecting all of these points and making a whole bunch of edges, and all of those edges make up a face. So we are extending the object out, but also making new points and edges and faces on the model when we extrude. If that is like confusing to anybody, if anyone needs clarification or doesn't understand or wants me to repeat anything, let me know. But I recommend just clicking random things on the cube and testing out the extrusion tool and just doing it a bunch of times, and I think you'll understand. Another thing to note is you can just like keep extruding. You can extrude multiple times in a row. So as you can see, I just extruded that edge out, right? I extended it out and it connected to the rest of the shape. I can keep extruding from there. I can extrude this one because the tool's still up. You can just keep going and just do that a bunch of times. You can make some crazy stuff. Look, I'm making stairs. I'm making stairs. Yeah, the extrude tool, super duper useful, super handy. It's a great tool, so you should make sure to practice it and learn it and understand how it works, because you'll be using it a lot when you 3D model. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and press A to select all, and I'm going to delete everything so I can start fresh so that I can teach you guys the next tool. Let me know though if you have any questions or anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete it. I'm just gonna delete all the vertices. There's no cube there. And then I'm going to just add a cube again. Oh, oops. Okay, there we go. So we now have a nice, fresh, beautiful cube. Okay, so we have our fresh and beautiful cube. And the next tool I'm going to teach you guys about is... there's a few different tools that are good to know here in this section. But I think loop cut. Loop cut is a really good tool to know. And I think it'll be kind of easy to understand, especially since we just learned about extrude. So loop cut is pretty simple to use. Basically, you're just taking the object and you are cutting it and adding new points and edges and faces. So I had the loop cut tool selected. It is this tool that looks like a line. It's on the left side. It's a few down from the extrude button. Loop cut. And I click on the cube basically by mousing over one of the edges, and I cut the cube. And it creates a bunch of new points and new edges right in the center of the cube. Yeah, or Control R. But I know not everybody's going to be able to memorize all of these hotkeys all at once, so yeah. And the cube is still the same shape. It didn't change the shape or anything. It didn't move anything. It just added new points and new edges and split one face into two face exactly along the center of the edge that I clicked. If you scroll wheel while the yellow target thing is showing, you can change number of cuts. Oh, I don't usually use the scroll wheel. I usually, here, if I select the loop cut tool again, you can go up into the left, right under edit mode. There is a little window there, and you can either drag it or you can type in an exact number. So let's say I wanted to make 3 cuts instead of 1 cut. You can press 3, and it says number of cuts 3, and then if you click on the edge, and you can see how it's going to make the cut. If I click there, it's actually going to make 3 cuts instead of just 1. And it will, the way it makes the cuts is it evenly distributes the cuts across the edge that you targeted. And so that makes a bunch of new points and new edges and new faces on the cube. And so you might be wondering, okay, that's cool, but why would I want to do that? This makes it easy for you to change the shape of things like in small pieces. So, for example, I wanted to make the cube have a little thing that pops out. There's these new faces now that are these nice smaller size. So I can click one, I can select it, and I can use the extrude tool, and I can do that. And now, actually, if I move it a little bit higher, look at that. That looks like a funky chair. So that's like a really easy way to make new parts on the object so that you can edit them and change them easily. So it was interesting because all we had was a cube, but all we had to do was extrude out this face that we made from making a bunch of loop cuts, and now we have a very simple modernist chair. This feels like the kind of thing I'd see like on a college campus. So that is the loop cut tool. Alright. For the next tool, well, I'm gonna press A to select all. I'm gonna delete everything. I'm gonna go back up to the top, press add a cube. And I will teach you guys this next tool. So this next tool is called the inset tool, inset faces. So if I select this face on the cube, it will bring up this circle. If I click and drag on the circle, it adds a new face, and you can... I mean, I don't want to use the word inset because that's like the name of the tool, and I want to like clarify what it does. But basically, it makes a new face inside of the face and then connects it with some new edges and some new faces. So this is a handy tool for doing that. And I know it doesn't really look, the shape is the same. But what you can do there is you can select this new face you've made, and then you can extrude it. And so that's a good way to make objects that have like ridges and stuff like that. It's basically the same as extrude, except scaling down after. Yeah, it's pretty similar to the extrude tool, but it doesn't, instead of moving it like outwards, you're moving it inwards along the face. Yeah. So that is the inset faces tool. That was right there. And here, I can show it again in case anybody missed it. It's the inset face tool is this one that looks like a green box with like a not green box in the center of it. And you use it by selecting a face and clicking the circle and going inwards. It would be handy for making the inside parts of mouths and snouts. Oh, another use for it is, so I just used the inset face tool in this box, right? And now I have this new face selected. If I use the extrude tool, instead of moving it up like this, you can also move it downwards. If you move it downwards, now it's an empty box. So that's just some like good examples of how to use those tools. I'm gonna press A to select everything and delete everything again. You've seen people who aren't super new to Blender and still use extrude and then scale instead of inset. I mean, I guess both work. It's kind of just, I think what's really interesting about 3D modeling is there are a lot of different paths to get to similar end results. I always say it's okay to do it however you want to. If you get to the same end result, just be open-minded to trying out new ways that make it easier for you, you know? But it's okay if you find one way easier and someone finds another way easier, because I feel like it's always going to be about, like, how your brain understands it, right? Me, as a self-taught person, who probably doesn't do everything very conventionally because I just do things based on what I've learned from trial and error, I try not to be too judgmental of people's processes if I can help it. Because I don't have a conventional process, probably. Okay. I'm going to add another cube. I'm going to show you guys another tool. So, up at the top, I'm adding a cube. We have another beautiful, plain little cube. And I'm going to teach you guys the bevel tool. So let's say you're looking at this cube and you're like, this cube is too sharp. A baby could hurt themselves on it. That's what the bevel tool is for. So you can select face, and you can select the bevel tool, which is right under the inset tool here on the left side. And if you click it, and then you click this little yellow thingamajiggy, and drag with your mouse, you will bevel the object. And basically you are taking, I guess the best way to describe it is you're taking the edge that was making up each of those faces, and you're turning the edge into its own face, and it goes at an angle so that you bevel the object. I feel like most of you should probably know what a bevel tool is in real life. It lets you shave things and cut things at an angle. And that's basically what it's doing. It's shaping the object like you cut it at an angle. If you look on the corner here, you can see there are like a lot of settings for this tool that you can edit. I am not going to go over what each of these things do because honestly speaking, I actually don't use this box that often and I don't know what each thing does. Or I don't know what everything does. But you can always experiment in your own time with just clicking a whole bunch of buttons and seeing what they do, because that is how I learned 75% of all of the things I know about Blender, is just clicking things and experimenting. Like with a car, you can't just say X car is the fastest because none is the fastest in all conditions. Yeah. So that is the bevel tool. I feel like I went over a bunch of stuff in like a pretty short period of time. If anyone has any questions or wants me to repeat anything, let me know. But I'm gonna go ahead and select the cube and delete it. Okay, so that's pretty much the basic tools that I had been planning to go over this stream. So we went over I'm just gonna recap. We went over the select tool, we went over the move tool, rotate tool, scale tool, extrusion, the extrude tool, inset faces, the inset faces tool, the loop cut tool, and the bevel tool. So those were all the tools that we covered. I hope you guys have a decent understanding of how they work and their controls. If you need me to repeat or go over any of those tools again, feel free to ask. But since we went over all of those, I think that you guys should be ready to make something now. So let's see. I had a couple different ideas, but I think the most fun idea that we can do right now is probably, I think a burger would be fun. So we're gonna make a burger. And while we make the burger, I'm also gonna teach you guys about materials. I'm not gonna go super duper in depth with materials because they have like a whole bunch of stuff that you can learn. But I'm gonna just teach you about them as a concept and teach you some very, very, very basic things. So I guess before we make the burger, we should teach you guys about materials. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, let's add a sphere. Let's add a UV sphere this time, so we have like a nice, beautiful sphere. I'm going to deselect it, So if you go into the right side of the screen, you'll notice we haven't really done anything with the right side of the screen here. That's because there is a lot of stuff here that's a bit more advanced and I think is a little bit out of the range of what I wanted to cover this stream. But I do want to go over one basic thing. So if you look on this little bar here, you'll see all these icons. I know there are so many icons. We are going to go to this icon right here at the bottom that looks like a red and black circle. We are going to click it. This is our materials tab. And the easiest way to describe a material is basically what a thing is made out of. A material is just what a thing is made out of. You'll notice that we have this little box in the corner here. I can click here and like make it longer, but you'll see it is blank. That's because we don't have any materials at all set up. I want this sphere, and it says cube because the object is called cube, because when I first added it into Blender, it was a cube, but I deleted the cube and I replaced it with a sphere mesh. So don't be confused by the fact that this says cube up here. This is the sphere. This is the sphere. If I press this little plus button, we are going to add a new material. And then it will make this little blank slot with a circle. There's nothing there because there are no materials at all. So if I go down here and I press the new button, this is going to make a new material. I'm going to call this material, it defaulted to just being called material 0.001 because that's just what they're called by default. You can rename it either by double clicking or actually no, yeah, just double clicking. I don't know if there's any way to do it besides double clicking. I just double click it and you can name it whatever you want. I want this sphere to look like metal. I want this sphere to look like it's made of metal. So I'm just gonna name it metal to show that this material I want to make is like a metal material. If you go down, I know there's like a lot of stuff. So when you're in this box, you can scroll down and you can see that there are like a whole bunch of settings here. It can be a little bit overwhelming, and I'm not gonna go over what they all do because I think that would be a lot to go over. But I think some of the basic ones that you guys probably want to know is base color changes the color of the material. So if I mouse over this box of color and I click it, this little color pick, sorry, I know it's like a little bit hard to see because the chat box is in front of it, but there is a color picker here, and you can drag it around and you can pick a color. There's 3 different selection modes. You can do hue, saturation, value. You can do RGB. This just applies to the little bars at the bottom, or you can just like click and drag around the color circle and drag up and down to adjust the lightness and darkness, whichever you guys prefer. Since I want it to be metal, I'm going to make it gray. I'm gonna make the base color like a nice like light gray. And then I want it to be metal, right? I want it to look shiny and metallic. So I can go to this very, very handy setting right here called metallic. And if I click and drag on the bar, I can increase the value and it makes it look a little more metallic. There's a setting called roughness that designates like how rough or how smooth this material is. If I make it low, the object will be, I think it's can't remember the setting. I think low is low roughness and high is high roughness, or is the opposite? Is high low rough, like is high smoother and low is rougher? I can't remember. I'm one of those people that doesn't memorize which is which. I just drag the bar back and forth until it looks like how I want it to. Oh, yes. I think Blender devs are intentionally trolling me. I worked out a super high grade unwrapped geonode meshes of manually. UV unwrapping is very cool and interesting, but I think UV unwrapping would probably be a little bit too advanced for today's stream, so I'm not gonna go over UVs. I just want to go over basic materials stuff, I think. Oh, and another thing that I think is actually probably pretty handy to know, just like as a basic thing, if I select all the faces, and I go up to the top here, and I press mesh, there, and it'll bring up this drop-down menu. And if I go down to where it says shading, I can say I want all of the faces to look smooth. And when I click that, it makes the sphere look very smooth. So I think that's good. Well, gloss and roughness are the same thing. You call it roughness when one means rough and gloss means 0. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my metal material settings. Oh, you know what? Sorry, I also just remember, this is like another basic thing of Blender that I forgot to go over. And because I forgot about it, that's why it doesn't look like anything really changed when I was changing the material settings, and I just realized it. So there is this thing, in the corner where my mouse is right now, there are different, viewport shading settings. So I'm currently in solid mode, but there's a few other ones. There is wire edges mode. When it's in wire edges, you can see you can see it just in terms of just the points and just the edges and just the faces. You can't see any of the materials or the textures or anything. I want to be in material preview mode, which is the one that looks like a white and gray circle. It matches the icon over here in our materials tab on the right side. This is the mode I want to be in, so I can actually see the materials. And that is a thing I forgot. That's why nothing looks different when I was changing the material settings. But now you can see the sphere looks very metallic. Before, I didn't have any metallic on. So I just went back into my metal material just now, and I turned metallic down to 0, and you can see it doesn't look like it's metal at all. But when I turn metallic up, it looks very shiny and metallic. So that's my bad. I completely forgot about the different viewport settings. I was also like sitting there thinking, did I forget how to use Blender? Nothing is changing. Okay. So there are a lot of different settings that you can change for materials right here in that little window. I'll let you guys experiment on your own to see what all of the different things do. But I just wanted this metallic material, so I just made the metallic high, and I can change the color to be like light gray or dark, or I could even make it a blue metallic sphere if I wanted. But yeah, there are a lot of different settings that you guys can mess around with if you like and see what they do. But that's basically what materials are. So an interesting thing though is you can have more than one material. You don't only have to have one. You can make an object be made out of multiple materials. In fact, many objects in real life are probably made out of more than one thing. So I made a metal material just now, right? But let's say I want to make something that's, not a shiny. So if you want to add another material, just press the plus button right here on the right side. Oh, my head's kind of blocking it a little bit. And the chat is also blocking it a little bit. Sorry, I keep forgetting to account for that. Let me see if I can... I'm moving my windows a little bit to see if I can... You know what? Here, I'm just gonna hide chat for a second. Just so you guys can see it easier. Oh. Wait. Hold on. I know there's a way for me to do this. Right? Oh. Okay, actually I can't hide chat. Because of the way my setup is set up. But I can do this. There. So, just to make sure you guys can see it. And here, I'll capture cursor, so there. So, yeah, I just realized you guys couldn't see it. I'm only gonna show you this, like, one more time, but I know it was really hard to see because my head was in the way. So, if you want to add another material, just press that little plus button, and then you add another material. There's like a few different buttons here, and I guess I'll go over them. The minus, obviously, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but when you press the minus button, you remove a material. So if I don't want the metal anymore, I would press the minus button and it would get rid of it, but I want to keep my metal, so I'm not going to delete it. There's also this little drop-down arrow, lets you do a few things. You can copy materials, you can paste materials, handy stuff like that. These arrows just like move the material that you have selected. It can move it up and down the list. And that's it. That's it for the buttons there. Not super exciting, but I figured I should just like go over them. Oh, here. Oh, Sawtooth Pine, thank you for the follow. Welcome in and happy Sunday. Okay, so yes, so we were in the middle of adding a new material, right? So we have this metal material, and now we have this blank slot. I'm gonna add a new material by pressing the new button there, and I'm gonna name it. Let's see. You know what? We can make it metal. We can also make it like a metal kind of material, but I'm gonna make it purple. I'm gonna make it purple metal. So I'm just gonna name it purple metal. So once again, you know, you can go down into the settings here. I want it to be purple, right? So I'm gonna change the base color to be a purple color. And then I want it to look metallic. So I'm gonna turn the metallic settings up. And then you're probably thinking to yourself, well, Pandy, the sphere is still metal. That's because the whole sphere is still set to be the first material I made. Blender is always going to default all of the mesh to the first material you make if there are no other materials made yet. So if you want to change the material on something, you have to select it and change it. So you can change things by face. Let's say I just want the top half of this sphere to be made of this new purple metal that I made, right? So I can go into box select if I want and select a bunch of faces all at once. By holding, I can hold shift and select multiple things at once. I'm just doing it like very, very rough. Oh, actually, sorry. Wait, no, never mind. Oh my god, sorry. I had to sneeze and it was distracting me, but yeah. So there. I've got just some of the faces on the sphere selected, right, with the box tool. And then you can go over to your materials list over here. I'm going to select purple metal, and then I'm going to press this assign button right here. And when I do that, it assigns those faces that I selected the purple metal material, and it changes it to look like purple metal. Thank you, Banshee Bunny. And that is how you change materials. By selecting the faces that you want to change and selecting the material in the list that you want to change it to by clicking it, and then pressing the assign button. And that will change the material. And don't get caught by trying to click destination material before selecting faces. Oh yeah, because when you select a face, it will always, that's a good point, Skittles. When you select a face, it will select the material that it's made of in the list automatically. So you're gonna want to select your face first so that you can pick the right material. You can kind of see it when I click, I'm currently selected at purple material, right? I currently have the purple metal material selected. When I click a face that's made of the normal default metal material, it changes the selection to the metal material in the list. So always double check that you have the right material selected. Yep, okay. So that is the basics of materials. If anybody has any questions or wants me to repeat anything, feel free to ask. And yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and select everything. Actually, you know what? No. I'm gonna go back into object mode because I've been in edit mode this whole time. I'm gonna go back into object mode, and I'm gonna go ahead and just delete the whole sphere object. I'm gonna add a new object, and I think we have gone over pretty much all the basics, and you guys know how materials work now, or at least I hope you do. So I think we know enough that we can make something, and I think we can make a sandwich or a burger. I guess a burger is technically a sandwich, right? But we're gonna make a burger / sandwich. You guys can pick. I think a burger would be cool though, because it'll let you guys work with some more circular things rather than just squares like we have been working with. So to start off with, I am going to add we're gonna, just to keep things a little bit simple for you guys. Oh shoot, actually, wait. No, sorry. There is one more thing. There is one more basic thing that I forgot to go over that's actually really important. So before we make anything, I need to actually go over this. So I'm gonna add a cube. I'm sorry, I forgot. Not a donut. Fun fact that I tell people all the time, because people always bring up the donut tutorial in my stream. I have never watched the Blender donut tutorial. I don't know anything about it other than you make a donut, but I don't know what you do in the tutorial other than your end product is a donut. I actually have I've never seen it. I've never seen or done the donut tutorial. Okay. So, this is actually an important thing. This is actually another very basic thing in Blender, but I forgot about it because there isn't really a tool. I just use the shortcut button all the time. But I'm going to show you it like this. So, for example, we have our cube, right? I am going to delete the top face of the cube. So I selected the top face of the cube. I'm going to press delete, and I'm going to say, I only want to delete the face. Okay, I'm gonna say I only want to delete the face. So then we have this empty cube, right? And the top is missing. I go into point select, and I select these 4 points. If I press F, it is going to connect all the points together and make a face. That is actually a very important tool and function of Blender that I forgot to tell you guys about. If you select things and you press F, Blender will connect all of them. So let me show you another example. I just pressed undo, so the face isn't there anymore. If I select just 3 points, I just select these 3. it's gonna make a face, but it's gonna make a triangle because I only selected those 3 points. So it's connecting those, and since I had these 2 points connected, it made an edge and it made a triangle there. So I selected those 3 and it made a triangle. If I press undo, and I have to press undo a bunch because select and deselect actions are also counted as undoable actions. I have to press it a bunch until I get rid of the triangle. If I just select this point, and I press F, it won't make a face, but it makes an edge. So you can see it right there. That orange line, it makes an edge. So that's just an important thing. You can connect things in Blender by selecting and pressing F, and it will connect them. I hope that's like easy to understand. If you select 2 points, you make an edge. If you select at least 3 points, you will make a face. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna go ahead and delete that cube and just add a new cube. Actually, no, instead of a cube, I'm gonna add, we can actually start the what do you call it? The burger making process now. So, you know, we don't have anything. I think it'd be nice to make a burger that's I like a classic rounded burger bun. But you guys can also make a patty melt if you want, with just like a bread bun or however you want. Anyways, this burger, you guys have free reign to make your burger or your sandwich however you want. The only rules is you need to have at least 1 piece of bread of some kind. It can be like a piece of normal sliced bread or a burger bun. And you need to have at least 3 different ingredients on the inside of your burger / sandwich. But you guys can decide to do that however you want. So I'm gonna make my own. I'm gonna talk about and walk through the steps of making my own burger. But if you guys feel comfortable enough to do your own thing, feel free. Or if you want to like follow along with me, but like loosely, like I make a bun, but you make a slice of bread that's square instead, go for it. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and make a classic burger. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a UV sphere, because if you think about it, a burger bun is shaped a lot like a sphere that had like its bottom half cut off. So that's why I am gonna use a sphere to start off with for my burger bun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into face select mode, and I am just gonna select pretty much most of the bottom of the sphere, and I'm just gonna delete all the faces off it and just get rid of them. And I think that'd be a little bit too tall for a burger bun right there, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete some more. And there, that looks like a pretty decent burger bun, I think. If you still think it's like a little bit tall, I still think it's like a little bit tall. I'm gonna select everything, and I can go ahead and scale it. I can make it like a little bit shorter. And there, that feels like a not too bad of a burger bun. But you will notice that it is just like an empty dome or like an upside down bowl right now. Obviously, because it's solid, we want it to, you know, have a bottom and not just be a hollow dome. So I'm going to connect all of the points on the bottom here. I'm also going to teach you guys actually another shortcut that I think is actually a very, very handy and really, really good shortcut. So I'm gonna go into edge select, right? And if I'm in edge select, I can select I can select these edges. So I could, I could select all of the vertices by using the select tool and clicking and dragging and just making sure I selected all of the vertices with the click and drag. But I can do it an even easier way. If I want to select all of the points or edges along like a loop of vertices, like this is one single loop of vertices that go around and make this big circle, I can go and I'm gonna go into edge mode, and if I hold Alt and I click one of the edges, it will select all of the edges that are also part of that loop. That's a really, really good shortcut for selecting a bunch of vertices or edges that, or even faces. It also works with faces along the same loop. I hope that made sense. But if that was like a little bit confusing for you, or you don't really understand how it works, you are always free to just use the box select tool, just click and drag and select all of these manually. There's no shame in that. Anyways, I selected all of those. I'm gonna press F, and like I told you before, it will connect all of them and make a face. So now the burger has the bottom. The burger bun has a bottom. Control F grid fill might be better. I've never used this shortcut before. I have never used grid fill before. Oh! Wow! It will create proper quads rather than an n-gon. Wow! You learn something new every day. I had no idea that that existed. I have only ever used the F button. I did not know grid fill existed. Wow. That's great. Well, now I know, and now all of you know. Since this is just a, what do you call it? This is just like a static object, and we're not going to be doing anything fancy with it, and I wasn't going to make any changes other than, it's just going to be flat, and I'm not going to make any other changes to it. F is fine, but, in general, n-gons are usually, like, not good. Oh, I guess I should explain what an n-gon is. An n-gon is basically, a face that has more than 4 points. A face with 4 points is called a quad. A face with only 3 points, that's like a triangular shape, is called a tri. Any more points than that, you just call it an n-gon, and the n stands for whatever number of points makes up the face. Sometimes an n-gon is better though, it's less poly. Yeah, it's very dependent on what you're going to be doing with the object. I guess this is just like another rule about 3D models that's like good for all of you to know. The more faces are also known as polys, polygons. That's why we say when an object is low poly, it means there aren't a lot of faces, there aren't a lot of polygons. It's low poly. That's what it means when you call an object low poly. The more faces, the more polys that a 3D model has, the bigger the file size. So most of the time, having a lower number of polygons is usually better if you can still make it look good with a lower number of polygons, because when you have a higher number, it gets a lot harder to work with the object. It'll be harder to work with in Blender, especially if your computer is not super fast. It will be slower to run in Blender because it will constantly have to be calculating, you know, all of the different vertices and the edges of faces. The more faces you have, the more data that the object has, and so it'll take longer for programs to like process and work with all of that data. Poly counts are very, very important for especially video games, I think, is where they're really, really important. Because for your video game to run more optimally and not run slowly on people's computers, you want to make sure that, like, the 3D objects and stuff, right, aren't super huge files that take up a lot of, like, processing and are, like, huge file sizes. So that's why you try to make your 3D models lower poly and more optimized so that the file size is smaller and they're easier to process and put in programs. Anyways, Ngons are usually not very good if you are, trying to think of, I don't actually use Ngons that much, only if I, like, really don't want to. Ngons are usually fine for, like, flat surfaces. If you are trying to make something that's, like, curved, Ngons are probably not super good. Yeah, in university, my game design professor kept on requiring us to make stupidly high poly models for our games. I was automatically making them low poly because that is the default state of making assets for games. Yeah. Yeah, Skittles is describing, reasons why, you want models to be low poly, because you would have to... Okay, so I guess the more faces and data and stuff that a model has, the longer that it takes to render. And in a video game, you have to render the model, like, all the time, constantly. You are constantly rendering the model. So when you have an object that's, like, really high poly and has a lot of faces, it makes your game run slower because it has to take so much time rendering that model, like, so many times. Finer details in a model can be done with fancy, highly specialized material. Yeah. It is possible to make things look really highly detailed but still be optimized, but those use a lot of techniques that are, like, way too advanced to really, like, talk too much about here at this stream. But just know that it is possible. That's how people make really cool, fancy, detailed-looking models in video games, but you can still run the video game without your, like, computer setting itself on fire. There are ways to do it, but that's just, like, all way too advanced to talk about at this stream. Sorry, my nose is, like, really itchy. Okay, anyways, for the purposes of a flat surface on a static object, it's okay that I have an Ngon here. It's fine. So I'm just gonna leave it as is. Anyways, sorry, I got pretty distracted there talking about model optimization and Ngons and stuff. But anyways, let's continue our sandwich/burger. I have the top bun here, right? I'm gonna go ahead and make a bottom bun. I could make a bottom bun by just copying this, and I forgot to actually teach you guys how to copy and paste. If I select stuff, I can press Control D, and it will duplicate it. Like, I selected that point, and I press not Control D, Shift D? Yeah, Shift D, and that duplicated it, and it just made a copy, and I can move that copy around. If I select the whole thing, if I press L on this, and, it selects the whole thing, and I press Shift D and click. It made a copy, and I could make a copy that way, but I want the bottom bun to actually look different, because generally on the burgers I eat, the buns are the rounder top bun and the bottom bun. So if you think about the bottom bun of a burger, it basically looks like a cylinder. So there's actually, very conveniently, you go into the add menu, there is a cylinder object already. So I can go ahead and add a cylinder mesh in. If you notice, this cylinder is, like, way too tall to be a burger bun. So I'm gonna go into the scale tool and I'm gonna scale it along the z-axis, the blue one, to make it shorter. And that looks a lot more like a burger bun. When you're making models for rigging and animation, isn't it best to stick to just quadgons? Yeah, I think most of the time, if you're making something and it's gonna be rigged and animated, I think generally you want quads. Tries are also okay. I don't usually use n-gons that much, so I don't actually know scenarios in which an n-gon would be better. But I know it is... Sometimes it's okay to use n-gon. Back in the day, character models had tries all over. Personally, I find it a lot easier working with models when they are in quads. I think a lot of times, though, sometimes when you export models, it changes quads to tries. And sometimes tries are better. I think... Anyways, sorry. I should probably not be talking too much about this. I don't want to confuse anybody out there that's like a beginner talking about like the benefits of tries over quads, because that's getting a little bit more into advanced stuff. I just want to teach you guys the basic tools and controls. So yes, I have just made a burger bun. I just took a cylinder and I scaled it down to be shorter. So we have a burger bun. So I have a top bun, I have a bottom bun, and now I have an empty center ready and full of potential for delicious burger ingredients. It's okay, I'm glad you guys are having fun talking. I just have to keep myself on topic because I can't, I need to make sure this stream isn't too long. And I need to make sure it's, like, not too, I'm gonna try to keep on topic for now. So, I've got an empty space. I think I just want, you know, your normal generic round patty burger. This isn't Wendy's. So I'm gonna go ahead and, well, a burger patty is basically also a cylinder. So I'm just gonna add another cylinder. It's really tall, so I'm just gonna make it short. I'm going to drag it up because it's overlapping with my burger bun, my bottom bun. I'm gonna drag it up. I'm gonna move it up so it's on top of my burger bun. And I'm gonna make this a nice juicy burger patty. I want to scale it so that it is a little bit wider than my bottom bun. Make the nasty patty. Ew, gross, not the nasty patty. I scaled it a little bit. Now we've got a nice juicy patty. I like it when my patties are a little bit round, right? I like it when my patties are a little bit round. So I think it'd be nice to bevel it a little bit. Get a little bit of roundness to it. So if I select the top edges, here, I can take my box select and I will just manually select the points here. I can use the bevel tool and make it a little bit, you know, a tiny bit rounder looking, you know, so it's not like a very, very sharp burger. I did that to the top. I can do it to the bottom as well. I beveled it, and so now it's like a little bit smoother looking, a little rounder looking, and not, doesn't look like a burger that would cut my mouth if I tried to eat a bite of it at the wrong angle. Nose itchy, sorry. And now we've got a patty. I like my burgers with cheese, so I'm gonna add cheese onto this burger. I'm just gonna add a classic slice of square cheese. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a cube, because if I make the cube, if I scale it down to be really, really, really short, it just looks like like a nice thick slice of cheese. I need to move it upwards so that it sits on top of my burger patty. And now that I see it on top of my burger patty, I'm thinking this cheese might be a little bit too big. So I'm gonna scale it down. And now I have a nice thick slice of cheese on top of my burger. Alright, what other burger ingredients do I want? Let's see. I like tomatoes on my burger, so you know what? Let's make some tomatoes. I'm gonna keep the tomato very, very simple looking. They're just gonna be round slices of tomato. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some more cylinders. I'm gonna scale them to be thin so that they look like tomato slices. It's a little hard to see what I'm doing, so I'm gonna go ahead and move it. I'm gonna scale it some more to be shorter. And actually, wait. That's like a really big tomato slice. I think the tomatoes are going to be a little bit smaller than the burger, but I'll add more than one tomato slice. So there we have nice thin slice of tomato. I'm gonna move it, you know, so it's not centered right in the burger, because I'm gonna have multiple tomato slices. Actually, maybe that tomato slice is a little too small. I make it bigger. I like my burgers juicy and full of tomato. So there, that's one tomato slice. And I'm gonna make sure that I have that tomato slice selected. I just pressed L to select the whole tomato slice. And then if I press Shift D, I have made a copy of the tomato slice. And I can move it around. And if you look at it, when I just move it, it is overlapping with this other tomato slice. And it looks a little bit weird when they're like overlapping like that. So if I use the rotate tool, I can rotate my tomato slice and get it to sit at an angle on top of the other tomato slice, but I need to move it up so it doesn't overlap with my cheese too. Let's see. There. And that looks a little better. And I'm gonna move over to the side here. There. Nice. I don't mind lettuce on my burgers. I'm not super into lettuce either, though. I don't feel like making lettuce for my burger. But let's see. Pickles. I do like pickles on my burger. We will keep it simple for the pickles as well. We will just make little pickles. A few little pickles. We already have a cylinder, right? We already have like a thin cylinder. And so I can just copy one of these tomato slices with Shift D, the duplicate tool. And I will just scale it so that it's smaller. That seems a little bit too thin to be a pickle slice, so I'm going to scale it up, make it a little thicker. And that is one little pickle, one little pickle slice. Have I been saying pickle? I'm not sure if I've been saying pickle or not. Actually, maybe this is still too small. I think pickles are a little bit bigger. I don't have a burger in front of me, so it's like kind of tough trying to remember what size things are. Okay, this seems like a reasonable pickle size. Let's add a few pickle slices. I usually eat burgers with several pickle slices on them. I'm rotating my pickle slices a little bit just to make sure that they aren't like overlapping with a bunch of stuff and it looks like they're, you know, laying on top of the other ingredients. And I think I didn't leave enough space for all of these ingredients, so I'm gonna go ahead and select my burger bun by pressing L on it. I'm gonna move it up to give myself a little bit more space to work with, and then I'm gonna add some more pickle slice. I would love a burger right now, actually. Like a real burger sounds really good. A real burger sounds really good. Alright, I want to make sure that my ingredients are not floating in the air by moving them down. Okay, there we've got a couple pickle slices on our burger. And, alright, I feel like we need like a really cool final ingredient. And you know what I love on my burgers, actually? I love onion rings or fried eggs. Either of those are good. I think I'm going to add a simple fried egg because I think that would be I think that would actually be pretty fun to show you guys. So a fried egg's a little bit more complicated in shape, right? It's not just like a cylinder. It's not a square. It's not a cube. It's a little bit funky. But if you think about a fried egg, you can kind of break it down into... Oh, hey, Majika, welcome in. My trim is already green, so you didn't really change anything. Sorry, I got distracted. Oh, yeah, so a fried egg. But you can, if you think about a fried egg, you can try to break it down into some simpler shapes. So if we're talking about a normal sunny side up egg, which is the egg that you find on a lot of burgers that use eggs as an ingredient, you've got the yolk, right? And you've got the egg white. The yolk's usually around the center, and the yolk is usually kind of round, like a dome. And the egg white is kind of generally like connects to the egg yolk, and it's more flat. So I'm always somebody that looks at the stuff that I've made or the shapes that are readily available in Blender, and I think to myself, okay, how can I use the shapes that are already here or in Blender, and how can I turn that into something that's a little bit more complex? So I'm gonna start with thinking of the egg yolk. The egg yolk is basically just like a round dome, right? I already kind of have a round dome because I made this hamburger bun. That's a round dome. Oh, sorry, I forgot to actually turn on my thing that handles my redeem, so that's my bad. I will turn it on, and then I will have aqua hair. Give me a second. There we go, my bad. I fixed it. Okay. So, what was I saying? Oh, yes. The egg yolk on a sunny side up is basically like a dome. And I have a dome already because I made this burger bun. So I'm going to go ahead, take this burger bun, and I'm going to duplicate it, make a copy. And then, obviously, this would be way, way, way too big to be the egg yolk on a fried egg, unless it was like a giant ostrich egg or something. So I'm going to go ahead... I'm gonna scale it down. And that is pretty egg yolk shaped, right? Now, we had the easy part. We've got the egg yolk, but now we want to make the rest of the egg, which is the egg white. We could go pretty simple. We could just make it like a perfectly round egg white. But I think it would be nice to make it a little bit more regular because most people's fried sunny side up eggs are usually a little bit irregular in shape. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with the round egg white, and then we'll change it. We'll change the shape of it to be a little bit more irregular. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and actually delete the bottom here. I'm going to delete this face because I'm going to have to remake the bottom when... Oh, my dog is in here. Hi, dogs. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete the base, because we're gonna remake the bottom of the egg anyways to go with the shape of the irregular egg. So we're just gonna delete that. Just the base. So now we have a hollow dome again. And now we want to make the egg white, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and select all of these vertices here at the bottom. And I am gonna use the extrude tool. And I'm gonna extrude everything outwards. Oops. Okay, instead of using the tool, I'm gonna use the E shortcut. And then I just press E, and then I'm gonna click. And so I extruded, but you can't see anything because I didn't move anything. But if I use the scale tool, and I scale it out, they will all scale outwards like this. And then that is kind of a good start. And then I'm gonna press E, and I'm gonna extrude again, and then and scale it out again, and then I'm gonna move it a little bit downwards because, you know, an egg's not like totally flat. And then I'm gonna do it one more time, same exact steps. I'm gonna press E to extrude, click, and then scale it outwards, and move it down. And I'm actually gonna make it a little bigger. I think the egg white would be probably a little bit bigger than that. Okay, cool. And then while I have all of this selected, I'm just gonna go ahead and press F, and we now have a very, very, very round fried egg. Actually, I'm gonna undo some of that because I'm like looking at it and I'm like, wait, this is still not big enough. An egg is bigger than this. So I'm gonna go ahead and extrude and scale one more time, because fried eggs are usually bigger. Alright, that's not a bad size for a fried egg. Okay, now I'll press F and connect all of these and make a face. So I think it's still a little bit small, but I can just select it and I can scale it and it will be bigger, and that seems like a pretty good size for a fried egg. But I don't like how perfectly round it is, you know, because a fried egg would probably not be this perfectly round with the yolk directly in the center. That's like a little bit scary, actually. That would be kind of a scary egg in real life if you think about it. So I'm going to go ahead and select the yolk. I'm gonna select the stuff, all the vertices that make up the yolk, and I'm going to move it a little bit to the side, you know, so it's not perfectly centered. I'm gonna move it down a little bit too. There, it's not perfectly centered. And if you really want to get crazy with it, you can select some of the edges here. You can select some of the edges, like on the outside, like some of the vertices, and you can kind of like move those around. You can also probably change some of the ones on the inside too if you want. And I'm just moving them like in, maybe a few out the side, just so we can get a more irregular egg shape, you know, because fried eggs especially, are usually not perfectly round. And this is just very quick, very rough. You know, I'm not trying to make a beautiful, perfect egg. I'm trying to go pretty fast for the sake of teaching stream. But, yeah. We are getting ourselves a nice, imperfect looking egg. I'm gonna go ahead and move the yolk some more. I'm gonna move some of the vertices. Oh, oops. Outside of the yolk as well. Ah. And there. I think that's not too bad looking for an egg that I made in about 5 minutes. And then I can go ahead and I'm gonna lift the burger bun up a little bit higher by selecting it with L and using the move tool to move it upwards. And that leaves plenty of room for our fried egg. And our fried egg actually still seems a little bit small, so I'm gonna scale the whole thing upwards a bit. So we've got ourselves a pretty nice burger now, I think. Actually, I think the top burger bun's a little bit small now, so I'm gonna go ahead and make that a little taller. Hey, Misu, welcome in. And now we've got, we have a burger. In real life, this egg yolk probably would have been squished and popped flat because of when you squish the burger with the burger bun. And you know what? I think it would actually look nice if I made it so that, you know, we haven't finished the burger yet. We can say this is a burger that's being partially made. Because it doesn't look very natural if the burger bun is sitting on top of the egg yolk. Because that's not what it would do in real life. So I'm actually going to take the burger bun off the burger. And I'm going to rotate it like it's sitting on the side. Like I'm in the kitchen at the fast food place. And they're making my burger. And they're double checking the recipe before they put the burger bun on, you know? So the burger bun's gonna sit, just, you know, at the side, right there. That looks good. Okay, now that we've modeled all of the ingredients, at least I've modeled all my ingredients. I don't know what you guys put on your burger or sandwiches or whatever you're doing. Let's go ahead and make our materials, because right now it looks like our burger is made out of paper mache. And that does not sound juicy and appetizing. So let's go ahead and make our burger bun first. So I'm going to make a new material. I'm going to call it bread. I'm going to keep things really simple. I'm just going to call it bread. So I have this new material on the right side. I added it by pressing the plus button and then pressing new, and I renamed it bread by double clicking it. So if I scroll down, I can take a look at all the settings. I want my burger buns to be a nice golden brown color, so I'm going to go into the base color and select a nice tasty brown, food brown color. I think that's a pretty decent color. And I'm gonna make it, I'm going to increase the roughness on it because, you know, bread is usually not super smooth and shiny. So I think it would make sense for it to be pretty rough looking. And that's good enough for now. You'll notice that all of the ingredients of my burger have turned into bread because there's only one material. So Blender only has one material to work with. So it just automatically made every single thing on the burger made out of bread. I want to change that because I'm going to be real with you guys. A bread burger doesn't sound that good, honestly speaking. So let's make our burger patty next. I would say that a burger patty is a pretty integral part of the burger. So I'm going to add a new material by pressing the plus button, pressing new. I'm going to double click it and I'm going to name it beef. This is going to be a beef patty. I'm gonna go down, gonna pick my base color. For a beef patty, I'm probably gonna want a nice deep brown color. Nice juicy brown patty. And then I'm gonna go ahead and select the patty by mousing over one of the points. I'm in point select. If I go over into face select instead, it's a little bit easier. But I'm gonna mouse over one of the faces on the burger patty and press L, and it will select the burger patty mesh. And now that's selected, I can go over to my materials, find the beef material in my list, and press assign. And that will change that into a beef patty. Delicious, delicious beef. It's a little bit shiny looking in a weird way, so I'm gonna change the beef patty to be a little rougher looking. Alright, next up, I want to do my cheese. I think I want mozzarella on this burger. So I'm going to make a new material. Same steps, press the plus button, press the new button that was down there, double click on it to rename it. I'm going to name it cheese. And I want a nice mozzarella cheese, so I'm going to make it yellow, but it's going to be a very pale light yellow. And cheese is actually pretty shiny. So I'm gonna try to make it a little shinier looking. I'm gonna go ahead and select the cheese mesh with L. Make sure I have cheese selected in my materials. Press assign. And now we have nice cheese. Nice slice of mozzarella cheese. The burger must not be very warm because the cheese isn't melted, but, you know, you gotta take what you can get. Next up is the tomatoes. So I'm gonna make a material called tomatoes. Press the plus button, press new, double click to rename it. I'm naming it tomatoes. And tomatoes are red. So I'm gonna make it nice, juicy, red tomato. I'm gonna go ahead and select my tomato slices, and I'm going to assign, make sure I pick the tomatoes material, and assign. Now we've got some juicy, schmooshy tomatoes. We have our pickle slices, but the pickle slices are a little bit hard to see, right? Because they're under some other stuff. I'm actually going to teach you guys a handy tool. Also, wait, how did this happen? Sorry, I just noticed that one of the vertices on my egg is weird. I'm going to move it back in place. I must have accidentally selected it when I was selecting something else and moving stuff around. Anyways, I'm going to teach you guys a handy shortcut for Blender that's like very, very useful to know. My egg is in the way. It's like very hard to see things under the egg, especially the pickle slices, which is what I'm trying to work with. If I select the egg, right, if I select the egg mesh with L, yeah, I could move the egg out of the way, but I really liked where I had the egg. I thought it was in a really good spot. So instead of moving the egg, I can hide the egg. I can make it so that I don't see the egg temporarily. So if you have something selected, for example, I have my egg selected, and you press H on your keyboard, it hides it. It doesn't delete it, it hides it. It's still there, you just can't see it and you can't select it. And now I can see my pickles. And then you're wondering, Pandy, how do you make the egg come back? To unhide all of the things that you have hidden, you can press Alt-H, and it unhides anything that you hid with the H shortcut. So I'm gonna hide the egg again. I press H on my keyboard, and that hides the egg. And now it's out of the way. So I'm gonna work with my pickles. I'm gonna make a new material by pressing the plus button, and then I press the new button, and then I double clicked, and I'm gonna name it pickles. And pickles are green, so I am going to make them green. But you know what I just thought of, guys? Pickles are interesting because the outside of a pickle is usually a darker green, but the inside of a pickle is usually a very light green, right? So what if we did that for our pickles? What we could do is if I select the outside faces on the pickle, you can either do that manually or you can do the shortcut I showed you guys where you mouse over the edge and you hold Alt and it will select all the faces that are part of the same loop. So I can select the whole outside like that. I can set it to be this pickles texture, this dark green one. And then the top and bottom, I can make a new material. I'll make a new material and I'll call it pickles inside for the inside of pickle. And I'm gonna make that light green, just very light green. And then I'm going to select the top and bottom faces. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna hide my tomato slices because it's really hard to see the bottoms of the pickles. So I'll hide my tomato slices to make it a little bit easier to work. So I selected my tomato slices and I pressed H on my keyboard to hide them. I'm gonna select these pickle slices, the top and the bottom. I'm holding Shift to select multiple things at once. And I can go over to my materials. I select pickles inside and I assign it. And now these are the inside pickles. Although I think the green might be a little bit too light. So I'm gonna go back into my material settings and make the green a little bit darker because pickles are actually probably a little greener than that. I'm gonna Google what a pickle looks like because I'm not sure no. What? Sorry, Google auto-filled in when I typed in pickle. I pressed enter and it filled in pickleball. And I did not want to know what pickleball was. Oh, okay. Actually, the inside of a pickle is actually... It's like light green, but it's like a very light yellowy green. So I should be making it the lime green. When in doubt, Google. God, I love Google. A little bit more yellow. There we go. That's a much better pickle color. If you wanted to, instead of going to each of these pickle slices and editing their materials, what I could do is I could just delete them. If I delete them, I can select this pickle that I've already, assigned all the materials to it properly. I can just make a copy of it. And the copy will also have the same materials. So that's one way you can do it to make your life a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and press Alt-H and that will unhide all of the things that I've hidden. So that way I can actually see where I'm putting my pickles. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the egg again. But I can leave the tomatoes there, and I can rearrange my pickle slices. Oops. I am really hungry. Oh, also, as a reminder, Control-Z, the handy undo button, also works for things like selecting and deselecting. So if you ever accidentally select or deselect something you didn't want to, you can just press Control-Z and you'll go back to before you did that little boo-boo. Shift-G is pretty useful too. Select somewhere, then you can pick by face area. I'm not sure I've ever used that. Let me try it. Shift-G. Area? Oh wait, I have to select a face first. Then I Shift-G. Then I do area. Oh, okay. So it picks all the faces that are the exact same size and shape. Okay, interesting. That's good to know. I'm trying to think if there are times when I would need this. I can't think of any off the top of my head right now. But I'm sure there are good uses for it. I just can't think of them. Okay, we have our pickle slices, and now we can do the final ingredient, gonna press Alt-H to unhide my hidden egg, my secret egg. We have our weird bread egg now. I want it to be a normal egg. So we have pretty much two main parts, right? Like, an egg has the yolk, and the egg has the egg white. So let's do the egg white first. I am just gonna call the material egg white. Nope, I said F white by accident. Okay, egg white. I'm just gonna leave that the base white color that the material is. And I'm going to just select the whole egg and assign it to the egg white material. So now the egg is white, but I want to change my yolk color. And so we are going to go ahead and select our faces on the egg yolk. Actually, wait, no. I need to make the egg yolk material first, sorry. Let's make the egg yolk material first. I press the plus button, I press the new button, I double click, I say egg yolk, and I'm gonna make that a nice, shiny, deep yellow color, like a delicious egg yolk is supposed to look like. Maybe a little bit more orange. Egg yolks are actually a little bit like a yellowy orange color. Okay, so now we are going to select all the faces that make up the egg yolk. There are easier ways to do this, but I feel like I'd be teaching you a lot of new stuff to teach you how I would select the egg yolk and only the egg yolk. And I think that'd be a little bit too much for the stream. So we're just gonna do it this easy to understand way where I just select manually all the egg yolk faces. I probably should have hid the bread bun before starting this because the bread bun keeps getting in the way. But I'm too far. I refuse to do anything else. There. We have manually selected all of the faces that make up the egg yolk. Is this a hamburger? Hey, Witchit! Yeah! Hey! This is a burger. This is a cheeseburger, actually. So we've selected all of our egg yolk faces, and we have our egg yolk material selected. So I'm going to press assign, and now we have a beautiful egg yolk. Beautiful, beautiful egg yolk. I'm going to make the egg yolk also a little bit shinier too, because egg yolks are usually pretty shiny. So I turned the roughness setting down in the materials, and it makes it shinier. Control plus on numpad is another good selection tool. It's increased selection, so you can select center, vertice, and keep pressing until you have what you want. Oh, that does sound very useful. I have not used that before. Let's test it out. So if I click the center and I press Control plus. Oh, yeah, that is really useful. That's good to know for the future. Thank you, Skittles. Okay. So now we have a beautiful burger. The beef patty, a mozzarella cheese slice, tomato slices, some pickles, and a lovely fried egg. So we're still in edit mode, so you can still see all of the edges and the faces. If I go into object mode, you won't see them though, and we can take a look at what our object looks like without all of those vertices and edges and stuff in the way. And it looks pretty good. You can kind of see all the faces and stuff just because of the shading. If you ever want your object to look like a little bit smoother, if you select your object, you can do it really easily by selecting the object when you're in object mode, going to object, going down into this list, and pressing shade smooth. And it will shade your object in a smooth way, and it looks nice and smooth and not super sharp. And there you have it, guys. We have a very simple and delicious burger. Right click is easier. Oh yeah, you can right click too. I forget about the right click menu sometimes. But yes, you can right click to do the same thing. You click it and then right click, and also shade smooth or shade flat. Alright, there we go. That is our burger. if you guys happen to make anything, if you are following along with me or making your own object, feel free to take a screenshot and post a picture in the art channel on the Discord server. If you do it soon, I will bring it up on stream and we can do a show and tell and I can see what everybody's made. Of course, I'm not assuming that any of you followed along though and made a burger, because, you know, it was optional. But if you did and you want to show off your work, you can post it and I will show it on stream. But yeah, that is pretty much everything I wanted to go over today. I taught you guys the basics of what makes up a 3D model. I taught you guys some of the basic tools and controls of Blender, so you should be able to navigate around the program pretty basically now. Oh, Zellman44, thank you for the follow. Welcome in. I showed you guys how to use some of those tools and what they do. And we use all of that knowledge to make a delicious burger. You want to ask an AR kit related question? Sure. Let me wrap this up and then I will open it up to a general Q&A where you guys can ask whatever. So, yeah, we have a delicious burger and hopefully you guys can use the stuff that you learned today to make your own stuff. I know it all seemed pretty basic and simple, but all of those basic tools and stuff, if you learn how to apply them and use them, you can use them to make really detailed and complicated things, like people. Yeah. Even here with the burger, you can already see how, even though these were simple shapes and basic tools, you can move them and change them, and they can turn into something a lot more detailed and complex. So here. I will just wrap up the Blender basics. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you guys were able to learn something. For those of you that were new to 3D modeling in Blender, I hope that this was helpful, and I hope that everything was like clear. If you guys have any questions about any of the stuff that we covered today, or if you forget something and you get confused about it, and Google for whatever reason's like not helpful, feel free to like ask me on the Discord server if you have a question or need some help, or you can like @ me on Twitter and I'll be down to answer. And yeah.